Ma'am, is it correct that in your evidence in chief, that is the evidence that you tendered before this court, before I ask you questions, you told this court that when the first intruder who had the firearm pointed at you, I mean you and the others who were in the house, you froze?
Angithi kunjalo ukuthi ubufakazi bakho obuyinhloko uma ngabe uqala ukuyeza ngobufakazi phambili ngokuthi ngibuza imibuzo ushilo-ke ukuthi ngathi lona oqala-ke noma wayiphanda wayiphethisa ikhomba ngesibhamu wena-ke wafriza. Yes, that's correct.
You also told this court in your evidence in chief that you also froze at the stage when you had to dial the police number, the 10111.
Waphinda washo-ke nokuthi nangenkathi kwakufanele ngayo ufoneleke inamba yamaphoyisa u-101 waphinda futhi wafriza. Yes, that's so.
You also told this court that at the time when you went to look for assistance, for help, to phone the police at your neighbor's house, that is Piri. Mapiri and Tabi saying panicked. They cried and panicked. You confirm that?
Ushiwo-ke nokuthi inkathi usuphumela ngaphandle-ke uyofuna usizo komakhelwane uMaphiri kanye naye-ke uNthabiseng baphenika base bekhala. Yes, that's true.
Ma'am, is it in any of your statements, that is P1, P2, P3, that when the robber, the first intruder who had the firearm, pointed you with a firearm, you panicked? Sorry, you froze. Sorry, you froze.
I didn't see it to be important.
Is it in any of the statement that I've read to you, Exhibit P1, P2, and P3, that when you were to dial the police number, the 10111 police number, you froze?
Ngabe kukhona yini kuyitatimende ezintathu engifundile u-P1, u-P2 kanye no-P3 ukuthi ngesikhathi kwakufanele ngaso ufonele u-10111 number yamaphoyisa wafriza?
Engikhumbulayo ukuthi ngakusho khona. Bengaqali kusho ngapha ecourt.
What I do remember is that I said it, or I mentioned it. I wasn't saying it for the first time here in court.
Ukuthi iphoyisa libhalani phansi or li-summarize kanjani lokho angikwazi.
As to what it is that the police officer writes or summarizes or writes down, that I have no knowledge of.
No.
Zandie Khumalo took the stand. She swore under oath. She told her version of what happened the night Senzo Meyiwa was killed. But when Advocate Nsumalo pulled out her sworn statement from 2018 and began cross-examining her line by line, things got awkward, fast. And I've got to say, after going through the footage, comparing her words to other witnesses like Tumelo Madlala, this just doesn't add up. This is my reaction and breakdown of what really went down in that courtroom and what Zandile might be hiding. So here's what Advocate Nsumalo starts with. Zandile made her first statement back in 2014, right after the shooting. Then, out of nowhere, she provides a second sworn statement in February 2018, over 3 years later. Nsumalo confirms the timeline. She shrugs and says, "I didn't count, but I'll believe you." Honestly, that line alone made me raise my eyebrows. 3 years go by before you update your statement in a high-profile murder case? What changed? What made you suddenly decide you needed to correct or add to your original statement? Because it sounds a lot like someone was cleaning things up once certain facts started surfacing. One of the first major contradictions happens when Zandile tells the court that when the intruder entered with a gun, everyone froze in fear. Now, that's a heavy moment. It paints a vivid, terrifying picture. But here's the thing. Nsumalo checks her statement. Not just one, but all of them. Nowhere does she mention freezing. Not even a hint. When he confronts her about it, her excuse? Maybe I didn't see it as important. Wait, what? You're telling me that a man walks in with a firearm, points it directly at you and the others, and your reaction is to freeze? But you didn't think that was worth including in your statement under oath? That's not just a memory lapse. That's suspicious. And let me say this. Tumelo, in his own testimony, described how the gunman appeared, who stood where, what happened. His recollection had clear gaps, yes, but even he never left out how people reacted. Zandile's omission looks deliberate. Now here's where things start spiraling. Zandile says Longwe arrived and greeted everyone normally. She insists there was nothing unusual, no congratulations or drama, just a friendly vibe. But hold on. Tumelo Madlala, Senzo's close friend who was also in the house that night, testified under oath that Longwe didn't greet anyone. Zero greetings, no small talk, no how are yous, nothing. So who's lying? Either Tumelo is fabricating a scene of tension, or Zandile is sanitizing Longwe's presence to protect him. Because if he did arrive with hostility, that would support the theory that this wasn't a robbery at all. And let's not forget, this was supposed to be a chilled evening. If Longwe's arrival was weird or cold, that changes everything. Zandile also says something else that really confused me. She claims that when Senzo was rushed to the hospital, Longwe was nowhere to be found. She only saw him again at the hospital where he arrived with her mother. That's a red flag. She's trying to make it sound like Longwe left the house and never came back, which would mean he couldn't have been involved, right? Here's the funny part. In Longwe's statement under oath says he was outside on the street and waited like 30 seconds after he heard about 2 or 3 shots, then went back in the house. There's no other witness backing up Longwe's statement. Even his car tracker places him driving away from the crime scene at 20 kilometers per hour after the incident, not to the hospital. But again, Tumelo's version contradicts this. He said Longwe was in the room, pushed the intruder, and left in panic before the first gunshot went off. Nothing else about the whereabouts of Longwe. You can't be in the room 1 second, then magically teleport to the hospital later with no explanation in between. To me, this feels like a strategic rewrite. It's as if Zandile is crafting a version where Longwe conveniently disappears before the shooting, so he's in the clear. But the timeline doesn't hold up. Zandile also claims she ran next door to her Mapiri's house after the shooting, but got no help because they were panicking. They were crying, overwhelmed. Mtukoza's testimony says he heard and saw Zandie Khumalo coming out of the house screaming and crying. That's when he came out of hiding and went back in. Please note this. Zandie Khumalo, not Zandile. It's a heavy emotional detail. But when Khumalo reads through her statements, again, this is nowhere to be found. She never once mentioned that her parents were too shocked to help her. When questioned, she says, "I did mention it, but whether the police wrote it down is not on me." Guys, this is the 3rd time she blames the police for details missing from her own signed affidavit. At some point, it stops being a coincidence. And here's why this matters. If your story only grows when you get into the witness box, then it's not truth. It's theater. Now this part honestly blew my mind. Zandile tells the court, "I was surprised that my boyfriend would run and leave me behind. I never asked him why. Not until today." Let that sink in. You're in a house where a man is shot and killed. Your own boyfriend abandons you and everyone else, and for years you never ask him, "What happened? Why did you run? Why did you leave me there?" That's not believable. If anything, it suggests one of 2 things. Either she knows exactly why he ran and doesn't want to say it, or she was told to follow the script. Either way, it's not normal behavior, not for someone who claims to be an innocent bystander caught in chaos. This one comes up repeatedly. Whenever Khumalo catches her leaving something critical, whether it's freezing or the parent reaction or Longwe's whereabouts, Zandile leans on the same excuse. "I said it to the police, but they must not have written it down." You're telling me the officers left out every single important detail you gave them? Convenient. Even if we believe that happened once or twice, the fact that she uses this line every time shows a pattern. It's a fallback, a shield. But here's the kicker. Zandile signed the affidavit. She declared that she read it, understood it, and that it was binding on her conscience.
If crucial moments are missing and she still signed it, then it's not a police problem. It's her problem.
And speaking of that oath, her 2018 statement ends with the classic line, "I have no objection to taking the prescribed oath. I consider it binding on my conscience." Well, Zandile, if that oath meant something, how can you explain the dozens of things you forgot to include but now suddenly remember when you're testifying years later? You're not allowed to change your sworn story whenever it suits the narrative, especially not in a murder trial. And honestly, if the court accepts this as valid testimony, we're sending a dangerous message that oaths don't matter and witnesses can just rewrite history from the dock. One thing I noticed, and this bothers me more every time I watch these testimonies, is how little mention there is of Khumalo. According to the version in the docket, Khumalo and Senzo stayed behind and fought with the intruders. They didn't run, they didn't hide. So why does Zandile's story say everyone froze and then everyone scattered? Why are the people who allegedly stayed behind and could have identified all intruders barely mentioned in anyone's affidavit? Even the defense team is not interested to hear anything about Khumalo. It's like they just forgot that she is the only person who remained with Senzo until he got shot. It's not just a contradiction, it's a void, one that the defense doesn't seem to be addressing enough either, and it's frustrating me. After hearing all this, comparing Zandile's testimony to Tumelo's, and seeing how Khumalo handled the cross-examination, here's my honest take. Zandie Khumalo is not a reliable witness. Her statements are inconsistent, her explanations are too convenient, and her courtroom performance feels curated, not candid. Advocate Khumalo didn't have to do anything fancy. All he did was read her words back to her, and the inconsistencies revealed themselves. The bigger question now is how many state witnesses crumbled under cross-examination. Because if this is the best the state has offered, then I fear this trial is headed for collapse. What do you think? Is Zandile protecting Longwe? Is she withholding the truth? Or is she just a confused, traumatized witness? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you spotted other contradictions I missed, I want to hear them. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe for more no BS analysis on the Senzo Meyiwa trial. New uploads every week, and we're just getting started. Until next time, stay informed, stay critical, and stay hot on the seat.
Welcome to the fire where the stakes ignite, where the questions burn hotter than the night. No escape once you're locked in the heat. This is your trial on the hot seat.